Hi, I'm not going to edit this. I'm telling myself more than I'm telling you. But I've gotten some good feedback that it would be helpful to have some videos that are not edited and spliced, like where it's choppy going from scene to scene. And I know that we have sensory processing difficulties, and I get that. So I can't do every video like this because of the way that my brain works. I have to I have to do multiple takes on some things. But anyways, today I wanted to talk about this question that's been on my mind of, am I autistic enough? So I don't know if that's something that you have also wondered, but we're going to explore that a little bit today. So I'm Taylor. This is my channel, Mom on the Spectrum. If you're new here, welcome. I don't know, you may have noticed that we just hit 100K here on the channel. I'm in shock. I'm in disbelief. I'm just eternally grateful and honored that you are on this journey with me. So if you're new here, welcome. If you have been around for a while, thank you so much for being here to support me. If you are looking for resources to help support you as a late diagnosed autistic person, that's what I do here. I create community events. I have downloadable content. I have videos. So hit that subscribe button if that sounds like something that might be helpful to you. And then I wanted to give a couple of quick shout outs to new channel members. So if you're unfamiliar with channel memberships, it's a $5 a month contribution, and it comes with priority responses to comments, because as much as I would love to respond to every single comment, there's just too many for me to do that. Special member badges, member emojis that you can use in the chats, and priority access to videos. So like whenever I post a video, members get to see it 24 hours early. So the new members that I want to give a shout out to are Order Through Chaos, Mapudi Lucius, Lizzie Green Eyes, Octavia, SE, Jamie Rice, Dan Robinson, and Elizabeth Rainbolt. So thank you to my new channel members, and it's so good to have you here. So let's talk a little bit about this question, am I autistic enough? So I find that this is probably particularly common among late diagnosed autistic adults, because our autism, for lack of better words, has kind of gone like under the surface. And we tend to have fewer support needs, at least fewer recognized support needs. And so, I remember even the diagnostic process for me, wondering like, am I autistic enough to receive this diagnosis? Like, I knew after all the research that I did, I knew that I was autistic, but I was like worried if I would be autistic enough for it to show up on the tests. And I was worried because I was like, if they say I'm not autistic, like I know I am. I don't know how I'm going to like prove it to myself, but I know I am. And so there was this fear of, and it's what y'all have told me too in the community is like, on a lot of the testing, especially like the online assessments and stuff, like we kind of psych ourselves out of like, I know how I should respond to get the answer that I want. And maybe I'm just like fabricating to get an answer that I want. I hope that's making sense to you. So in my head, I was going through all these gymnastics of like, well, what if I'm just creating this scenario for me to get the diagnosis and I'm not really autistic and I'm faking it. And it was such this exhausting mental gymnastics of jumping through hoops. And but sure enough, I received a professional autism diagnosis a few years ago now, and immediately afterwards I remember thinking like am I acting autistic enough? Like, do I need to change the way that I act now? Should I stim more? Should I have more like stereotypical autistic like flapping stims? Like, are people going to expect me to act one way? And I just remember kind of like, one of those feels like, what do I do with my hands? What do I do with my body? Like, how is this an awkward expression? Is this the right expression? Just like over analyzing myself in space more than I ever had before, because now that I had the diagnosis, I was like, what do I do with it? And I immediately became focused on like what other people would think of that. And that can be a really paralyzing way to go, especially for those of us who are people pleasers. And I know I've talked about that a lot on the channel. So I find myself thinking about this in what I do in the content I create for the channel too, because I get feedback that I've had largely, mostly really positive, beautiful, kind feedback. I do receive some feedback sometimes that sharing what I share takes away from people with lower support needs. And I hate to hear that, it's like I'm one person sharing my story, and I'm happy to create space for more people who, maybe can't communicate the same way that I can. But I find myself wondering, like, am I not autistic enough, to the community, or am I not autistic enough to, like, be credible, And that's just such a silly thought, because my mind's a bit all over the place, but, like, my psychologist was talking to me about, like, privacy and, like, how much I want to share with the outside world. So it's like, so much in my life I've found a lot of freedom in talking about my struggles and talking about things that make me feel isolated and alone, because in sharing those dark, scary things, I realize that I'm not alone, and it connects me to other people. But, like I said, like, now we're up to 100,000 subscribers on here. Like, what? That's bizarre and unexpected. And it's like, I share my life with a lot of people, and it just becomes, I like researching autism. I like using myself as an experiment. I know some of you do too. And so, sometimes I'll turn the camera on when I'm in meltdown, and I like to observe my patterns and all of that. So it's like finding the balance between that, but, like, also having privacy to myself, where I'm not sharing every single freaking thing, with the world, because I think it's important to kind of guard some of my experience too. So there's a lot that you don't see on camera. And obviously, like, autism is a completely different experience by yourself, right? Like, that's part of it. Like, when you're with other people, it's a totally different experience. So when you see me, it's just me, right? Occasionally you'll see a collab, like me and Orion or me and Claire. But even one-on-one is a totally different dynamic than, like, a social situation. So you see my autism on display in a controlled, well-maintained environment that I'm in control of everything you see. And so it's going to present very differently than, like, it would if you saw me at the grocery store or, at a school event. I find those to be pretty, like, one of the most stressful things, like school events for my kids, with other parents. So just a reminder, like, what you see. And I think for those of us who are autistic, like, how we function at home alone is so different than how we function with other people. And especially for those of us with lower obvious support needs, it might not come across just how much help we need. We've gotten so used to helping ourselves and accommodating ourselves, which I feel like a lot of times leads to burnout, because we're just not used to, like, being able to ask for help, accept help, know how to verbalize or communicate what help we need. So I'm a bit all over the place, I think, but I just, I think overall this question of am I autistic enough is silly. It doesn't mean that I can stop worrying about, like, am I autistic enough, but, nobody is ever going to be able to live one day in your shoes or through your eyes, or whichever idiom you want to use that we may or may not understand. At the end of the day, you're the only person who understands your experience. And there's many of us out there with like really high IQs, and we've learned how to just circumnavigate so many barriers that, I think sometimes our intelligence can keep us from coming across as having the needs that we have. And some of us are just insanely skilled at people pleasing because it's been a coping strategy to help us survive. And so we just by default don't let anybody in. We don't communicate any needs or wants. And I think that a lot of times masks our autism and masks the needs that we do have. We downplay the accommodations that would make our lives a lot easier. And that's why I tell people all these tiny little accommodations that we're learning how to make for ourselves, they add up to make a really huge difference, right? Like, lower lighting, comfortable clothes, keeping fidgets on hand, learning how to stem, keeping snacks on hand, staying hydrated, prioritizing rest, lots of rest, all of these tiny little things that seem insignificant when just taken by themselves. It is really, really helpful to lean on those things and to even ask for other people to help you bring more of those things into your life. And when we have that, we can be more fully present, we can be more fully engaged and vibrant and just connected with our sense of self. So, am I still talking about the same thing that I started talking about? So if you're out there wondering, am I autistic enough? Who gets to decide? You, right? I'm autistic. And am I being autistic enough? Yes, because I'm me and I'm autistic. And like that can take any shape that it may take on a given day. You know, if I wasn't diagnosed, I could have gone the rest of my life passing as neurotypical because I've done so on the surface, what appears to be effortlessly, you know, for 3 decades. It's not effortless. Those many of you have heard me talk about, it's like a duck on a pond. They look really serene and peaceful, but under the surface, they're like kicking like crazy to get where they need to go. So, am I autistic enough? Yes. Like, I'm autistic. You can't separate me from autism. Like, I know we have different like diagnostic levels of autism, but there's really no way to like, you know, it's still a bit arbitrary. And it doesn't matter like where you fall. Like autistic is autistic. And I think it just causes kind of more frustration to nitpick it to death, you know, of like, well, am I autistic enough? Am I, you know, do I deserve these resources? That's one thing. Going back to the whole diagnostic thing, like even getting a diagnosis, this is what I hear from the autistic community. I don't want to take resources away from other people who need them more. I don't want to appropriate a term that I shouldn't use. You know, if somebody else needs the term autism more than I do, I don't want to take it away from them. So there's these feelings of like, we even hesitate to use the term for ourselves because we think someone else might need it more. And again, I go back to these tiny little accommodations. Whenever you start learning how to accommodate yourself in small ways, you start to see just how profound of a difference they make on your life. And they're helping me realize that I'm a lot more autistic than I was thinking, you know? Like, I've just gotten used to going without. I've gotten used to dealing with my life without a lot of supports that would make it a lot easier and a lot more comfortable and a lot less draining and a lot more restorative, right? So I don't know. I hope this is making sense, but I just want you to know that if you identify as being autistic, either professionally diagnosed, self-diagnosed, don't let other people define that term for you, right? There's a reason why you resonate so strongly with this term. There's a reason why you resonate with the community. Nobody can take that away from you. And if they try to take it away from you, then maybe they're not supposed to be in your life. I mean, I know that's harsh, but a lot of autistic people tend to become intertwined with others who take advantage of us. I don't know. It's just like a pattern I've noticed. So just really be mindful of your relationships, and the relationships that are meant to be in your life are going to be supportive. They're going to bring validation. They're going to help you feel like a fuller expression of yourself. And if they're not doing that, then just use that as information to determine like what role do you actually want these people to have in your life. So the most important thing is you validate yourself. You believe your own experience. You believe you're not too sensitive. You're not overthinking. You're not taking things out of context. Trust your body's feedback system. You know, we've kind of downplayed it for a long time, but you can trust it. And as you start to trust your intuition, it will get stronger and stronger and stronger. But your experience matters. You're not too sensitive. You're autistic enough. Believe me, I'll tell you. And I hope that together we can learn how to like better accept ourselves and be kind and gentle, because late diagnosis is a really intense process. It's just a lot. It's a lot to navigate. So be extra kind, be extra gentle to yourself. If you're looking for some community to connect to, I usually always have a couple of community events going on. You can check them out at on my website, momonthespectrum.life/community. That's the website, but my brain is like second guessing it right now. Yep, that's it. momonthespectrum.life/community for the most up-to-date classes and connection groups that I'm offering. And I think that's it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.